Welcome everyone to a ESO build video. This is the Shadow Scale, a hybrid DPS Dragonknight. We're using a mix of daggers and destruction staff. This is a highly competent build that you can use in trials, dungeons and veteran content. This performs extremely well and will keep you on par with the metas, as well as looking really flashy with all those effects popping off. Right, so let's get into it. We're running a stamina race. Currently you can see an Imperial, but any stamina race will do. We're going 64 into stamina. We're running recovery food for stamina and for health. Either the Artaeum takeaway broth or dubious Cameronian Throne will do perfectly fine. If you do find that you have more than enough recovery, do feel free to use flat stat food. That will cover your max health, stamina, and even magicka if you prefer. Our Mundus Stone is the Thief for that extra beefy critical rating. Right, and next up is the gear. We're running a 2-piece monster set, which is Prior Tierix, which can be found in Red Petal Bastion on Veteran. We're running medium on the head and the shoulders, both with stamina enchants, and divines for the trait. This set adds weapon and spell damage, and dealing direct damage with an area of effect ability creates a 6-meter shadowy whirlwind below your enemy for 7 seconds. Enemy within the whirlwind take 1400 physical damage each second and increase their damage taken from your area of effect abilities by 5%. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. This will add an awesome shadowy explosion on the ground. Enemies will take damage every second, and our area of effect abilities will do more damage. This adds to the theme very nicely. Set number 2 is the Unfathomable Darkness set, which can be gotten in the Clockwork City, and you can also buy it from the Guild Merchant. So it's a very easy set to get. We're running 3 body pieces. This set is a medium set and can only be gotten in medium, but for the 3 pieces you want max stamina and divines as the traits. We're also running 2 daggers of the Unfathomable Darkness as well. Your main hand dagger will be Nirnhound with a poisoned weapon enchant. Our offhand dagger will be charged, which will increase the chance to apply status effects by 240%, and also a fiery weapon enchant. This will help us get back stats and resources. Unfathomable Darkness gives us critical chance, offensive penetration, and adds weapon and spell damage. And when you deal damage, you call a murder of crows around you for 12 seconds. Every 3 seconds a crow will be sent to peck the closest enemy within 12 meters of you, dealing 4,500 physical damage. This effect can also occur once every 15 seconds, and it scales with the higher of our weapon and spell damage. So we want this within melee range. And set number 3 is the Dark Convergence set. This is a light set that you can get from PvP Battlegrounds as a reward, or you can also buy it from the Guild Merchant. So this is a very easy build to put together and performs extremely well. We're running 2 body pieces and 3 jewelry sets. For the body we're running stamina and the traits are divines. For the jewelry you want weapon damage and the bloodthirsty trait on all 3 pieces. The Dark Conversion set adds maximum magicka, offensive penetration, weapon and spell damage, and casting abilities that leave an effect on the ground will create an area that applies 60% snare and pulls enemies after 1 second delay, stunning them for 1 second. After 4 seconds, the area deals 3000 magic damage to all enemies in the 10-meter area, and 6000 magic damage to enemies within 3 meters of the center, increasing by 50% for each target. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds and scales up the higher of your weapon or spell damage. This adds another beautiful dark area of effect, really setting off the theme of this build. Works really well for that extra bit of damage, and also adds a bit of group support by pulling all of the enemies in together for the tank to gather nicely. And finally, for the back bar, we're running the Maelstrom's Infernal Staff, which can be gotten from the Maelstrom Arena on normal or veteran. From veteran you'll get the Perfected Maelstrom Inferno Staff, which will add an extra stat. We're running a weapon damage enchantment, and we're also running infused. With this staff, your light and heavy attacks deal an additional 1400 damage to enemies in your wall of elements. With the gear done, we'll now move on to the skills, and we'll start with the front bar. And at the end of the video, we'll go over the rotation. It's a static rotation, so it's going to be very easy, especially for beginners. And veterans are going to have a very easy time pulling off very high DPS. Right, so on our front bar, we're running Venomous Claw, This is morphed from Searing Strike. Rake an enemy with your claw, dealing 5,000 poison damage and an additional 17,500 poison damage over 14 seconds. The poison seeps into the target and deals increased damage the longer it lasts, dealing 20% more damage every 2 seconds. Enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with the poison status effect. So what this means is anyone who's afflicted with your poison status will give us back stamina to help our resource pool. And it also means that once we apply this dot, the longer it's on the enemy, the more damage it's going to do over time. So this isn't something you want to spam. You want to hit the enemy with this and then leave it tick away and wait until it's almost finished before you reapply. Next up, we're running Rending Slashes, which is a morph from Twin Slashes. Slice an enemy with both weapons to cause deep lacerations, dealing 3,000 bleed damage with each weapon and causing them to bleed for an additional 9,500 bleed damage over 10 seconds. You also reduce their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. This is another dot on our front bar, which will cause the enemy to bleed. Next up is Noxious Breath, which is a morph from Fiery Breath. Exhale a corrosive blast to enemies in front of you, dealing 7,000 poison damage and an additional 13,500 poison damage over 14 seconds. This afflicts enemies with Major Breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 6,000. This move will also proc our monster set, increasing our area of effect damage and hitting the enemy with a nice hefty damage bonus. And this will also cause enemies to take a lot more damage over time by reducing their resistances. We're also using Stone Giant, which is a morph of Stone Fist. Crush the enemy beneath you, dealing 8,700 physical damage to all enemies within 6 meters of you. Debris ripped from the ground is held around you for 12 seconds. Activating the ability again allows you to launch part of the debris at an enemy, dealing 9,500 physical damage up to 3 times. The final cast stuns for 3 seconds. Each hit applies stagger, increasing damage taken by 65 per stack for 6 seconds. This is one of our spam abilities, but if you can keep this up, you can increase the damage the enemies take from you by quite a bit. I will explain this in the rotation at the end. We're also running Barb Trap, which is a morph of Trap Beast. Set a sharpened blade trap at your location, which takes 1.5 seconds to arm and lasts for 15 seconds. When triggered, the trap deals 5,000 bleed damage and an additional 18,500 bleed damage over 18 seconds, and grants you Minor Force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. Enemies who activate the trap are immobilized for 2 seconds. Bear in mind, that doesn't count for bosses, it will not immobilize them. But you will get Minor Force, increasing our critical damage output by a full 10%. Not to mention, we're also doing almost 20,000 extra bleed damage over 18 seconds. We are running a lot of dots. We're a Dragonknight, so this has fantastic synergy with us. And next up is our ultimate, Flawless Dawnbreaker. This is a morph of Dawnbreaker. It doesn't matter which one you take of either morphs, but I like to go with Flawless Dawnbreaker just for the increase in weapon and spell damage. If I fire this, arm yourself with Meridia's Sacred Sword and dispense her retribution, dealing 12,000 physical damage to enemies in front of you and an additional 15,000 physical damage over 6 seconds. After activating, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300 for 20 seconds. This is not our main ultimate, but it is handy to use just at the end of a fight for a bit of increased damage and to quickly finish off a boss. On our back bar, where we're running a staff, we're using Unstable Wall of Fire. Slam your staff down to create an unstable flaming barrier in front of you, dealing 717 flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. When this effect ends, the barrier explodes, dealing 4,000 flame damage. This will also proc our Monster Helm. You want to keep this up at all times, let it explode, and pop it back down for that extra AoE damage. We're also running Consuming Trap on this bar. Lay claim to an enemy's soul, dealing 9,000 magic damage or 13,000 physical damage over 10 seconds. The damage dealt is based on your highest offensive stat. If an affected enemy dies, you'll fill an empty soul gem and heal for 5,000. You also restore 3,000 magicka and 6,000 stamina. This portion of the ability will scale off our max health, magicka and stamina. This is another dot, and it's a very powerful dot at that. We're also running Degeneration, which is a morph of Entropy. This is another heavy dot for us. Bind an enemy with chaotic magic, dealing 10,000 magic damage over 12 seconds. Excess magic spills out from them, granting you major sorcery, increasing your spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. This is handy for us because we only have major sorcery on our back bar, but when we apply this to an enemy, it means we also have major sorcery on the front bar, as well as doing hefty amounts of damage from a dot. We're also running Flames of Oblivion, which is a morph of Inferno, activating Aura of Flames, which launches a fireball at 3 enemies every 5 seconds, dealing 7,000 flame damage. While slotted, you gain Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing your spell and weapon critical rating by 2,500. This will apply for our AoE abilities and dots on the back bar, which will keep that damage when we move to the front bar. We're also running Echoing Vigor for our main burst heal. This is a morph of Vigor. Let loose a battle cry, instilling you and your allies with resolve and healing for 12,500 health over 10 seconds. So anyone who's standing very close to you is going to get this onto them as well, and they will also start to heal. So it's good group support as well as keeping yourself steady. You don't need to spam this because it is over a 10-second duration, so you will constantly heal for 10 seconds. We are also running Standard of Might, our main ultimate for the Dragonknight. This is a morph of Dragonknight Standard. Call down a battle standard, dealing 3,700 flame damage every 1 second for 20 seconds to enemies and applying Major Defile to them, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 16%. Standing in the area increases your damage done and reduces damage taken by 15%. An ally near the standard can activate the Shackle synergy, dealing almost 9,000 flame damage to enemies in the area and immobilizing them for 5 seconds. So you want to keep all your ultimate and pop this because of the extra damage it's going to do to enemies who are standing in it. It's also going to increase our damage that we're doing to that enemy, as well as reducing the damage we take as well. And of course, you'll get a nice beefy synergy for your teammates, giving back everyone resources, helping to keep you all alive. This will also give back resources to you due to our passives, which I'll go over in a moment. It's overall an extremely fun time with some extra effects bouncing around. And onto the passives. In the Ardent Flame skill line, we want all the passives. We want Combustion, Warmth, Searing Heat, World and Ruin. In the Dragonic Power skill line, we only want the Iron Skin, Elder Dragon, and Scaled Armor passives. From the Earthen Heart, we want the Eternal Mountain, we want Battle Roar, and we also want the Mountain's Blessing. We have no need for Helping Hands, as this only applies to non-stamina costing Earthen Heart abilities. Stone Giant is stamina. Now, onto our weapons. We're using 2 daggers on the front bar, so we want all of the passives for those extra beefy damage. We're running a Destruction Staff on the back bar, so we want all of the passives from here too. We're also running 2 pieces of light armor on our body, so we want all of the light armor passives as well to give us some extra critical resistances and recovery. The rest we're wearing is medium armor, so we want all the passives from medium armor for our weapon damage, critical damage, our recovery, and sneak if you want. Now in Soul Magic, if you want, you can grab everything from the passives here. They're not overly necessary, but if you want to have them, they're there. This is where you'll find Consuming Trap. We are running Fighters Guild abilities, so we will be grabbing all of the passives from the Fighters Guild. You don't need the Bounty Hunter passive though. That only really applies to Cyrodiil. We're also running Degeneration from the Mages Guild, so we're going to want all of the passives from here too. We're reducing all of our magic usage and of course to up the strength of everything. And finally in the Undaunted skill line, you want Undaunted Command and you want Undaunted Metal. So we get more restores from our synergies and we also get a bit more of the max stats. And then obviously from the Race skill line, you want everything. Right, and now we're going to do a quick run over the champion points for the abilities and slottables. In the Warfare tree, we're taking Fighting Finesse to increase our critical damage, Deadly Aim to increase your damage done with single target attacks, Thaumaturge because we are running a whole lot of dots on this build, and also Master at Arms to increase your damage done with direct attacks by 2% per stage. And in the Fitness tree, we are also running the Boundless Vitality to increase our max health, Fortified to increase our armor to keep us alive a bit longer, Rejuvenation to increase those health, magicka and stamina recovery. And then we're also running Bloody Renewal. Restore 300 stamina per stage whenever you kill an enemy. And in the craft tree, you can take whatever you want. I have many setups, but for dungeons, I'll usually take Rationeer, Liquid Efficiency, Steed's Blessing, and Treasure Hunter. Just because they're all handy and usable in a dungeon. Okay, now a quick overview of the rotation. This is a very easy rotation. It's a static rotation, so you're not going to be bar swapping and jumping between abilities too much. So the rotation is going to go as follows. We're going to apply Venomous Claw, Light Attack, Rending Slashes, Light Attack, Noxious Breath, Light Attack, one Stone Giant, Light Attack, Stone Giant, Light Attack, Stone Giant. That will get Stone Giant up to 3, and we'll be able to get the max damage out of that. We'll then Light Attack, drop our Barb Trap, Bar Swap, Light Attack, Wall of Elements, Light Attack, Consuming Trap, Light Attack, Degeneration, Light Attack, Inferno Balls, and then Light Attack and drop our ultimate. The extra damage. That's it. It's nice and simple. Now, quickly, it's going to look like this. And like so. Nice, simple, straightforward. You can sit back, let those dots ramp up, and there you go. There we go. That's the Shadow Scale Hybrid DPS build. I hope you found this build useful. If you'd like more of these builds, like, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see more content elsewhere, you can follow me on Twitch at Dying Legacy. I'm live right now. Come say hello. Come on, do it. You can also catch me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and be awesome.